Hello and welcome to this new tutorial, and in this one I will explain how to create this kind of neon effect in which you can have full control because it will be entirely generated into Smode. So this is an effect I've seen a lot in many different shows, TV shows, spectacle and whatever. So let's start to do that. So I'm going to create a new composition and create a shape layer. So right click, shape layer text. This will allow, oh, I made a mistake. It's not an empty Bezier, but a text that I want to instantiate. So this allows to create generative line from Smode. So it's a vectorial generator, a vector generator. So let's rename that neon effect and change its typo to whatever fit to a neon typography. So I know that Russell square should work pretty well. Okay, lemon opaque air. Russell square, here it is. Let's add change the size by changing the size here. So first thing we want to do the neon effect is to keep only the outer lines because we are going to generate a glow and tubes from this line. So first thing to do is to go to the renderer here, disable the fill parameter, and maybe make the line a little bit thinner. So 2 pixels for starts. So let's try to let's first do a glow that will already add something. So one way to do a glow is to just add a blur modifier. So right click blur modifier. So let's add a little bit of radius here, and let's change its blending mode with input from replace to additive. And here you see that we already have like kind of a nice glow. So one thing to understand with this effect, the blur, the glow using a blur, is that it works better with images with no alpha. So for instance, if I want to put a background here, let's go into standard pack, texture, example image. Let's take this one. Okay, so what I will do is to put my neon effect into a composition by Ctrl Shift and C, and then put my Gaussian blur over this composition, and be sure that this composition, my neon effect, hold no alpha layer. Because between, you'll see if you try it, if you try to do a blur over an image that contains alpha, it will work less well. But as we do a neon effect, if I want to apply my image to show my neon over my previous image, the Roma God rays, for instance, I will just put the composition into additive and it will do the job just well. So this picture is not maybe the very best to show how it works. So let's just put a linear gradient on the back and go into the gradient parameter of the linear gradient and change that to some colors that looks like what I wanted to do. Alright, so let's go back to my blur that we will call glow, just to remember what it's used for. So you have several options that you can use, for instance the radius of the blur here. So you see if I augment the radius too much, I kind of see this kind of glitches. It's because I do not have enough sample, enough budget in my blur, so I need to augment that a little bit, and you see already that it's changing its shape. So be aware that this parameter consumes a lot of power, so it has to be put like with reason. And then I have the output luminosity that I can use to augment, to increment the luminosity to have a better blur. So now what I will show is a technique to have like a colorized neon. So what I can do, of course, is to go in my renderer, the one that generates the white line, and change its color, and there it is. But it's not that wonderful. What I prefer to do, because usually to have a photographic effect, you simulate the burn on the captor by leaving a little bit of white or very clear color in the center, which we cannot achieve by changing the color of the line. So the best way to do it is to use another modifier that is called the overlay. So let's deactivate the glow, and the overlay is in right click, utility, and overlay. I think I already did, no, not rasterize, sorry. So utility, overlay here. So I already did a little tutorial to explain what the overlay is up to. Basically, the overlay does nothing. It just have to contain a modifier inside of it. And if I put back my glow in replace mode as it was originally, you see that there's no changes if I put that in the overlay. But what's the only purpose of the overlay is to add a blending mode to whatever modifier. So you can try this overlay with many different modifiers and see what you come with. It's kind of funny to use. So let's put that in additive as it was before. So now I have exactly the same glow effect that I had previously, but I can now add a little color, red and blue, inside my overlay and put a color to it. This will allow to do like this kind of blurry effect, but with a color. So I keep my white line in the center and I just add colorized glow. So let's rename that colorized glow. And if you want to do this kind of glow in a way more fast fashion, you can just go into the standard pack here, and you should have a little folder that is called preset here. So activate all of these bitches, and then you will have access to all the presets that exist for the modifier. So if I go to overlay, here, you have somewhere here a colorized glow. So here, colored glow. So this will basically create the same. You see a Gaussian blur with a colorize. So it does the same thing if you want to use it this way. So now we have something. So what we can do now is for first play with the output luminosity. What we can do also is change the luminosity threshold. This will just put the glow in the lightest, brightest part of the image, given what number you put it into it. And what you can do also is change the behavior of the glow. For now, it's a Gaussian blur. So let's change that from Gaussian to custom. Now in my blur, I will have a new set of parameters. So algorithm multipass, let's not touch that for now. And as you see, the Gaussian blur is actually made of two different directional blur, one vertical and one horizontal. That are triggered using a Gaussian curve. So you can change the curve here to whatever you want. There's a lot of shit to do with glow customization. But let's just change this blur. I think, no, this. Okay, so this is the horizontal blur. Let's change its scale a little bit. So you see when I change the scale, here comes this trouble. And this is because I have not enough sample in my glow, and you see here the perfect number of samples that I should have to have a perfect blur or glow in this case will be 104, and I'm only in 69. So let's put that a little bit more, and you see I still have some little 104, some little kind of defect because this scaling, well, it's kind of a trick. So if you put the scale on 1, you will have like a perfect blur. If you change a little bit the scale, of course you will have this thing happening. But it can allow to, to do some beautiful stuff. Now what I want to do is to add the kind of tube effect that we have on the precedent composition. This kind of like tube line effect. So let's come back to this composition and let's add another blur, but this time before the glow, and deactivate the glow. So this blur we will use in an other method, and I will use a ring blur. So the ring blur, it just bring that this way. So I have a radius to change the size of my ring blur. And of course, if I change the size of the line, let's put a little visualize here to see the input and the output. So if I change the line, my original line, it will obviously affect my ring blur. So, well, there's a lot of things to parameter and you have to do this carefully, but if you follow what I'm doing, it should work. And let's put back the colorized glow. So you see the glow is a little bit less dense because of course my ring blur put down a little bit the luminosity, the brightest part of my composition, but it gives me two things. First, I have different brightness, so I can, on my glow, then change a little bit the luminosity threshold to have, like, for instance, and the output luminosity, to have like the overlapping part a little bit brighter than the non-overlapping part. And then here you see also, no, the samples are due to my scale here. Let's put that back to 1. Okay. And what I will do in between those two, the ring blur here and the colorized glow, I will add a little modifier, which is a color modifier exposure, just to add some contrast and some brightness. So now, let's see the input output. Just to add some more contrast. Let's go now on the colorized glow to see what's happening. Okay, maybe a little bit too much. Okay. So here we have basically the effect, and then it has to be fine-tuned to have exactly what you want to do with it. And then for the last part, just to reproduce what we had before, I will just add on my shape layer. So the main purpose of the shape layer is that it's not really a pixelated layer. It's a vectorial layer, so I can add modifier that will well, use this property. And here I will use the stroke. And in the stroke, here, I have some few parameters. For instance, here, this one that change the end of my line, this that change the beginning of my line, this that change the center. And of course, you can do right-click linear loop animation on each one of those parameters to do whatever you want. And what I can do also is to change the way I stroke, I made the letter appears, either in a parallel fashion, so we cannot see right now, parallel, or I can put that in sequential, which will make all my letters appear one after the other. So here you have like a basic way to do like a quick neon effect, and believe me, it will work in most of the cases, especially if it's then projected on a LED screen that is captured by a live camera. And then one last thing is that we are going to put all those modifiers, select all those modifiers, then click Ctrl Shift and J to make a group and call that neon effect. Okay. And now what I can do is export the group. So let's do that. And I will save that in a tuto, neon effect. All right. Now let's go in my media directory, tuto, neon effect. So what this neon effect will do, now I just exported my old modifier. So if I create a new composition with line or with this kind of shape, then I can just import my modifier, either as reference or import. Reference means that if I modify my modifier here, each one of the instances that I call in any composition will be repercuted. And if I import that as import. Where did it went? Okay, a little bug. So let's put that in reference. Okay, and import. So there was a little bug here. So let's redo the composition again quickly. Up, new composition. So for the Smode dev that watch this video, then you have a little bug report for you. I'm on Smode 9.3.6, so let's put that a little bit up, remove the fill, and take our modifier as import. Okay, and blur, as you see, I do not have exactly the same thing that I had before. Why? For first, because probably, no, I do not have an alpha layer. Let's create a composition, put that over this composition. So this composition has an alpha layer, and you see if I remove the alpha layer, then my blur is very different. So the difference can come also because the blur is pixel dependent. So given the size of your composition, you can have very different effect. What I will do here is just reduce a little bit the output luminosity of my blur, maybe deactivate the exposure. Up, let's reduce that, augment the size. Okay, and there we have it. So yeah, let's conclude this tutorial, and I hope it had been useful. We saw some few bugs and way to reshape and adapt this new custom modifier. So, and if you have any questions, just leave that in the comment. See you next time.